Well, hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Revive to Stage with me, Pascal Floor, and the Shakespeare of the fitness industry, my man, Steve Hall.
Shakespeare. Hi guys,
Yeah,
I am really good at speaking English.
and
Writing.
writing articles.
Oh, writing
Man, you're
articles.
always in the article of the week from the PTDC.
Well, actually, it was, I suppose, a combination of, it was more so Ryan's work this week, which
I
was really
see.
good to see. So, Ryan Solomon, if people don't know who he is, if you're not in our free Facebook group, which I definitely recommend you join, he's posting content in there daily. He's an intern for us at Revive Stronger. And yeah, he wrote this piece along with a few edits from myself, but it was definitely his piece of work. So, that was the nutritional minimums for bodybuilder, which is a great read for anyone who's kind of a bit unsure about what they should be having in terms of protein, carbs, fat, fiber, and also water.
And I mean, if the audience isn't aware of it already, we are always putting out one blog post a week. So head on over to revivestronger.com and check out the latest articles there.
Good plug.
But yeah, totally. We need to do a little bit of promo as well.
I,
But we are definitely what?
I was just going to say, I think, yeah, people who are listening, like sometimes we forget to do these things and realize that before I remember asking if you're, why don't people review the podcast or why don't people like, I don't know, share an article or something? And very often it's because, not because they don't want to review, they don't want to share it, it's they just don't think about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, by doing this little bit of plug work early on, hopefully you guys appreciate it. And if you do want to give us a review on the podcast, you do want to give it a share it with anyone, do want to go and read some more of our content because there's tons of articles on the website, please do. And I hopefully you don't get too annoyed with us bringing it up.
But it needs to be said, definitely. However, we are not here to talk about further plugs. We are here to talk about your past weeks because, as we all know already from the last time I interviewed Steve, Steve decided to do a little gaining phase in the midst of his contest prep. Yeah, that's true. You heard it here. Yeah, so you're doing a gaining phase now. You had a small deload prior to that, is that right?
Yeah.
And yeah, just give us a little bit of insight on what has changed over the past 2 weeks. What are you doing now? How are you feeling? And all that kind of stuff.
Cool. So yeah, it was really funny actually, because I was having a bit of chit chat with Alberto Nunez, who, if people don't know who he is, from 3DMJ, I'm sure you will if you listen to this podcast, you listen to us ramble on. He is taking basically a bit similar approach, really. He's coming out, I think he said he's in around 100 calorie surplus, because he's essentially ready a bit early. He wants to bring up some lagging body parts. So he's, and I kind of bantered with him saying, oh, Alberto Nunez always copying me, blah, blah, blah. Because I think he might have started after me, I don't know, but obviously he isn't copying me. But then Evan Godby, who I've had on the podcast, who is a tremendous natural pro bodybuilder as well, sent me like a meme. It was from I don't know what film, but it was like, he's leaving us, no. And I was like, yeah, this is like what I should send Pascal, I'm leaving you. So I am still I'm very much, this year is about competing. I'm not doing an extended massing phase. This is definitely a short, sharp, just trying to remove a lot of diet fatigue and things like that, which we discussed last time I was on. It was mainly because I'm in a lean position early. I'm leaner than I thought I would be at this body weight. So it's all about kind of removing that diet fatigue, hopefully removing some food focus, which I'll get into. And also just kind of set me up best for the second half of kind of my contest prep. So yeah, I took the deload, which obviously every mesocycle I finish off with a deload. And within my deloads, I also have like a diet break. So I eat at maintenance calories. So I was on around 2,800 to 2,900 calories during that deload week. Volumes very much slashed almost in half. Intensities down like 10 to 20%. So it's fairly kind of a really easy week, that deload week. By the end of that deload week, I was feeling really, really good. During the start of it, I was very much feeling overreached. had loads of symptoms of feeling really, really down in the dumps, and kind of it was very hard. And we obviously discussed that last time. So the first week of massing has been kind of interesting. It's been exciting. Training's been really, really fruitful, very, very fun. I have so much DOMs this week. I know we've talked about it before as well, and listeners will know that delayed onset muscle soreness is not maybe kind of an indicator that you're definitely growing and you're definitely doing something good. But if you're controlling every single variable within your program and you're getting DOMs on top of kind of a well-planned program, it's probably a good sign that you're causing muscle damage. Muscle damage is one of kind of the pathways to hypertrophy, and so to get DOMs is probably a good thing, as long as it's not like causing your next session to be kind of disrupted. That's related to I really like stress response adaptation curves for like muscle groups. Mm-hmm. And basically, like if I hammered my quads yesterday with some close stance feet forward squats. My quads are sore today, but they should be pretty much like not sore by Wednesday, which is when my next lower body session is. I've got light quad session, and they'll be fully recovered by the Saturday again for me to hit my quads hard. So you kind of want to make sure that you're not training on very, very sore muscles, because you're training a muscle that's damaged, and that's not a good thing. Because if you go ham when you've got massive DOMs in a muscle, you're going to tear something, you're going to rip some shit up. This week has been, if I just talk about my training, so it's been really fun. I've gone back to the AM and PM sessions because I get rid of that during the deload. And they've been pretty quick, pretty short and sharp. On Wednesday even, I put all my session into one. So I did all my accessories and my main movements in one session. Went out in the evening for a meal with my parents. In fact, this week's been very much like, it's crazy how, and I'm jumping a bit all over the place. Let me stick to training. So most movements have been adjusted very slightly, which I like to do mesocycle to mesocycle. But I have kept feet forward close stance squats in, because last mesocycle was the first time I've done them. And I feel like I could still eke some more very, very good progress out of them. They also gave me the feedback I got from them, the progress I made with them during that mesocycle was really good, and they felt really nice. So I wanted to keep those in. But I've gone to straight leg deadlifts or stiff leg deadlifts from the hex bar deadlift, which I'm really enjoying. They felt awesome. Really, like I didn't use a heavy weight at all, and such a movement causes major kind of the eccentric kind of portion of it, the stretching on the hamstrings. Like if I did lots of sets of it, or if I went really hard this first week, I'd be sore for so many days. If anyone's ever done that, like you're sore for a long, long time. So my hamstrings got pretty damn sore from just 3 sets, 3 reps from failure, 120 kilograms. I probably could have gone quite a bit heavier, but and my form was spot on. With like all the time we're assessing our form, trying to perfect it. But the first week of every mesocycle, I'm very, very cautious with my form. I'm like, right, I have to pick a weight that allows me to perfect my form, like make it the best it can possibly be. I like to film my movements actually in my first week and in my final week. I think that's a really good time to do it, because in your first week, they should all be spot on. You have no excuse. You're far away from failure. Hopefully a lot of people are doing that sort of training. And then in the final week before, like you're deloading, maybe you're closer to failure, you're using heavier weights. You kind of want the form to look similar, which I think is a good way of doing things. I've moved for pressing movements. I've moved away from kind of the barbell. I have gone towards a dumbbell press. Kept dumbbell incline press, because that was the first time I'd done them for a while. Again, like the squats, so I've kept those in. They're feeling really good. And also, probably the most interesting thing that I need to actually talk about is the kind of metabolite training I've been doing, or pump work, bro work, people like to call it. And this is really like fun part of programming, because hypertrophy training, like the standard hypertrophy training, is quite boring. Like you're in the mostly 8 to 12 rep range, maybe up to 15 reps, and you're just kind of like building volume through that, progressively overloading. Whereas metabolite training is where you have like different ways you can build blood, metabolites, and all those good things that kind of come along with that in so many different ways. So I've used myoreps before. If people don't know that, look up Bjork Vitelli. myo reps. I've used supersets. I've used drop sets. You can use like giant sets, like occlusion work. There's just loads of different things. So at the moment, I'm using some drop sets, but I'm getting a lot. And my favorite at the moment is my chest superset. So I go from a dumbbell fly, and I do this flat and incline on the separate days, and then into either a flat press up or a incline press up, wide grip. So I just go 10 plus reps on that first fly exercise, then straight into press ups to almost failure. And then for this week, I've just done 3 sets of those. So it's done very quick, but the pump is insane. And it feels great. And yeah, it's really been quite fun.
So basically, what you've changed up is only that you included some metabolic work and some kind of variants of the exercises you did in the past already. Have you changed something about your volume in general? Like, did you increase the sets per exercise, or did that stay the same with your with the work you did in the past, or did you, or do you think that the DOMs you received were only because of that metabolic work you did, or the variance itself?
I think what I didn't want to preempt being able to do lots more volume. I always think it's better to undershoot than overshoot that. And I think it will take me a while to really kind of like, the body has kind of, people have probably heard of like the delayed training effect, in which you don't really see the strength gains or whatever it might be, the gains, until later on. You do the hard work, and then the response and adaptation comes later. I think the same comes with food. I don't think my body will fully appreciate feeling fully recovered until like a few days or a few weeks rather into the training. And so I didn't want to preempt like a big ability to handle more volume. So I think, yeah, the soreness is mostly, so my actual volume this week is going to have been slightly higher, but only because of the metabolite work. So it's not that I've dosed the main movements, the core work, anything higher. That's very much stayed pretty standard. And yeah, the DOMs I feel is probably related to a variety change in movement pattern, and also the metabolite work. Yeah.
Because what I find really interesting here is you are now in a surplus, or a slight surplus, when it comes to your nutrition. You were in a kind of darker place, but you didn't really change that much of your volume. But still, you get that much of a response from your training now, even though you haven't really increased your set number or volume by that much. And I think it's really interesting how the body responds now to you getting more nutrients in again. Could you see a connection between the DOMs and the nutritional intake?
So this is really interesting, and actually I tried to research this recently, and I really, really wish for myself and for the audience to have a very scientific and well-explained answer. But this is something that interests me, because people talk about being in a surplus and having kind of, what am I trying to say? Yeah, being in a surplus, having ample nutrition for your training tends, and people talk about it reducing DOMs.
Exactly.
In fact, I don't think that's true. Because I remember specifically Mike Israetel talking about, after your training, you'll notice if you actually have like good nutritional timing, like very good nutritional timing, and you have like a lot of food after your training, the body actually causes worse DOMs by having that nutritional input straight away, because it's doing it's stimulating the adaptive process, and the hypertrophy response is greater because you're kind of signaling it for it to be there. Whereas if you delay your nutrition and you're not as good with that, then that's when you don't get as good DOMs, because the body doesn't want to respond in such a way. I can't remember specifically his explanation behind it, and I don't know the science behind that exactly. But I don't know if you do, Pascal, but I do. I think there's a bit of a misconception there, that people think that kind of eating more and all these different things actually reduces DOMs. Whereas I think a lot of the time when you are training in a deficit, you sometimes don't get DOMs, because you can't provide the actual processes and the adaptive stresses to kind of put in the overload training for a hypertrophic stimulus. So yeah, it's interesting.
Totally. And I I experienced the same thing in the past, that when I'm dieting, I hardly ever get any DOMs. I can't really explain why, because when I compare my training to the training I did when I was gaining, there wasn't really that much of a difference. I was still able to hit all my reps, all the sets, all that kind of stuff. But then again, I simply didn't get the response from my body in that regard. And I mean, you are a living proof of it now. You didn't really change that much. And I mean, you didn't include metabolic training for your legs, right?
I did, not for hamstrings,
Okay.
because I don't really feel like hamstrings get a lot from it, and I feel like
Nah.
they just get really tight. They don't
Yeah.
really get like a good pump because they're quite fast twitch for most people, and I definitely think mine are. Whereas my quads, I did put in a little bit, but they they get sore from the standard like the high
Yeah.
bar close start squats. They get sore from it. But yeah,
Totally.
I suppose this week my leg metabolite work didn't go to plan because like me and Pascal have discussed, both of us are holding a bit on to some niggling injuries. My knee, I think it was just from the pure amount of volume that I was putting through
Yeah.
close stance kind of. I did close stance hack squats, and then it started just kind of seizing up. It wasn't like an acute pain. It was kind of like, Steve, we're just going to tell you that this shouldn't be happening. Like, we're not going to send a stabbing pain or anything. We're just going to start seizing up. And that's kind of what it was doing. So I had to drop my drop sets early. So I didn't really get that done this week. So yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. I'm not really doing much for my legs. Although my calves, I am doing metabolite training for. I think I just need to up the volume on those because they're
Yeah.
stubborn buggers.
Totally. They are just ridiculous.
Ridiculously small and imbalanced. My left calf is bigger
Are
than my
they?
right. Yeah, I've
Okay.
measured. It's depressing.
Um, no, but what do I want? Ah, yeah, with the niggling pain you got there. I mean, you did a lot of knee flexion now, and you included the close stance squats together with the hack squats and all that kind of different variations for your lower body. And I think it simply aggravated your knee now. And I don't see it as a real injury. However, it's a warning sign from your
Yeah,
body, and especially when you're in a leaner state, I would always err on the side of safety. Rather be safe than sorry in that regard, because if you are injured, you can't really train as you intended to, and especially now in the phase where you want to give your body the rest it needs to be then able in the future to push for the last bit of your contest prep. You really don't want to get injured now because yeah, your body will be then again under a lot of stress, and this is something you would like to prevent now. And this brings me also to the next point, because when it comes to your weigh-ins, there has been some changes which again are so weird. When you, just for the listeners who just got into the episode or the show now, in the beginning of the contest spread, Steve haven't lost any weight for 4 weeks on the scale. Yeah, visually he made such a big change. However, the scale weight stayed stable the whole time. He held it on to a lot of water due to stress, and a lot of edema was going on. Your ankles was swollen with water. And funny enough, a weird thing is happening right now because you are actually losing weight, right?
kind of. So it's interesting because we had this chat where we discussed whether I should be looking at the scale during this gaining phase because it
Yeah.
might put me off. And I said to you that it's not something that I have within my power to not step on the scale, which sounds really wrong. It's kind of similar to me logging into my Fitness Pal, even if I'm not really tracking properly.
Yeah.
So you'll see if you go onto my Fitness Pal, SN Hall 1990, I think it is.
Another plug.
Another plug if you want to follow me and watch my diary and see all my massive salads that I eat. You can have a look on there because I don't.
I mean, every day the same meals.
Every day exactly the same: chicken, brown rice. No, but it's similar meals. Anyway,
Tilapia.
so what was I saying? So yeah, similar thing with my Fitness Pal. Like I'll log in, I've got a crazy streak on there of over 1,000 days or something, which is crazy. But I have been weighing myself, but I haven't actually been. And throughout this contest prep, really weird. haven't really been looking at like the weekly averages and like what's going on. I've kind of just been looking at the scale. Like I know what I'm weighing. Like today, I know I weighed in at 172.125, I think, or something. And this week has been around that. So I've been around 172, 173 pounds. But it's really strange because through my diets, when I'm in a calorie deficit, I won't see like big drops week to week to week. And then I'll go into my deload week and hoping that I'll see like a whoosh or like stress will leave. I'll go into my deload week and I'll start gaining weight. Like all of a sudden, like the first 3-4 days, like my weight will really spike up like a good couple of pounds. And then the last few days will get back to what it was kind of the week prior. And then the first next week is when weight really starts, like that's where I see the whoosh coming through. So I'm kind of, because my body, normally I go, I'm in deficit, 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 diet break, deficit, deficit, deficit. Whereas I've gone deficit, diet break, massing. So my weight has actually kind of stabilized almost. So normally it would drop. So it's kind of stabilized to the week it was the prior to my maintenance period. Which, when you think about it and you look at the past data and how my body's responded, and I look on a graph, it would all make kind of sense. So I think I've actually probably lost a bit of fat this week, and kind of, it's like that delayed effect, like we talked about before. And I think to jump to conclusions and like say, oh, I'm maintaining weight this week, so I need to jump another 300 calories or something to start gaining weight. I think that'd be very silly to do right now. And
Totally.
like we always talk, and I think we've spoken about it before, kind of ignore the first week of data when you're doing something new, when you first start a diet, when you first start a gaining phase, first start maintenance, ignore the first week. The body's just adjusting to what you're throwing at it. It's very different. Going into diet is a big stress. Going to a surplus is like a big change. So this week, not really looking at what the scale's saying, but I have pretty much maintained. I think next week will be more telling. But I do intend to increase calories by 100, basically 20 grams more carbs, because I want to make sure I am in a surplus, because I definitely want to gain some weight and really reduce diet fatigue. And I am going to increase my volume by a fair bit. I also definitely know, and anyone who's maybe watching this, maybe you've watched past episodes or you've watched me on Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it might be, my gesturing, my talking, my kind of everything about me is just like boo boo boo, beaming with energy. I'm hotter, like I'm wearing shorts, I've got a hoodie on, but I actually feel quite hot under here and I might start sweating. Whereas before it was like there was not life to me. I was just kind of like it's kind of like draining a battery. I was kind of like a drained battery before, and I didn't really have much life. My steps might be very similar. In fact, I think my steps are pretty much similar, but the step count doesn't take into account all the gesturing, all the kind of like different things that you do. And like I even know like my posture. Like I was in the coffee shop and I was like, I'm not leaning onto the chair. I'm like sitting upright, like with good posture. I was like, what am I doing? Like last week I had like it tucked right under me, under the chair, like so I could just like be lazy and lean into it and just be like, oh, this is nice and relaxing. So yeah, it's really interesting. This is why I love being a coach that also does what they coach, because these are the things you wouldn't like without experiencing it. It wouldn't be real. Like you wouldn't be able to like sympathize the same way.
And I mean, it's also another thing to read it or hear about it and then spot it on a client, because right now you get the experience yourself, what to look out for, or what you can give for recommendations for them, what they can look out for when the need is coming down and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm always saying to my clients, okay, I want you to move, stay active, and try to be aware of how you're actually moving on a daily basis. Not only the steps, but I'm talking about the gestures and about the small things you're doing on a daily basis. If you were kind of tapping your foot all the time and now you're no longer doing it, and stuff like that, be aware of that, because it will help you massively staying active and burn some more calories before we need to make some adjustments on your macronutrient intake. And yeah, it's so funny because Steve and I are always talking about over WhatsApp and also here, of course. But after I think it was 2 or 3 days, I received a message in the morning, which was around I think 5 to 6 minutes long, and your talking speed gone up, increased
Now you can't
massively,
even understand me.
and yeah, you talked so quickly, and I could simply hear it in your voice that you were so much more energetic and you were feeling so much better, which is it was lovely to hear, first and foremost, but also quite interesting to see how much of a change it can make to get back into a maintenance caloric intake when you are on that leaner side already.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's been a really positive experience. And the only, I think, if we can touch on a little bit, I kind of talked about the food focus a little bit and kind of things like that. I think it's interesting because I am probably sitting at 7%, 8% body fat potentially. So I am towards the lower end of kind of just on the cusp of being healthy. And I think I
I
am, sorry.
just to make sure for the bros out there, this is not 8% like, bruh, I'm 8%. This is like for real 8%.
So yeah, this is probably like I have striated glutes and kind of my quads have like I have feathering in my triceps and stuff like that. So this is like pretty for real 8%. So it's like a even for me who is someone who is generally just leaner. I've always been on the leaner side. I think it is somewhere my body doesn't particularly want to be, and so it's going through and eating more food at the moment. It hasn't fixed everything for me yet. It's not like I've got the energy and I've got like the flexibilities back. Like I can be way more flexible with my food. Like going out, like I said, we've spoken about. I had pizza yesterday, which was amazing. I had like Domino's, I think, in my like deload week, which I've been doing every time. I went out for a dinner with my parents during the week, and these are things I definitely just couldn't have really afforded to do. Like we talk about your
Ah,
macro budget, you have to be much more stringent when you're in a calorie deficit. You've also got less to spend. Whereas now I've got much more to spend, but I'm still having to be a bit stringent. I can't just kind of like relax completely. I found I'm still needing to kind of have my cocoa oats and have my kind of oats before bed, these like filling meals, and having big, massive salads, hashtag massive salad. If you're on Instagram, please check out that. And it, I'm still hungry. My body definitely wants me to put on weight. I can feel it. It definitely like I don't think I'm maintaining or in a calorie deficit, and that's why I'm hungry. I think it's just my body wants me to gain weight, and I guess that's related to the fact that kind of body fat cells release leptin. The less body fat you have, the less leptin that's being produced, and leptin's a satiety hormone. So if there's less leptin being circulated, I'm going to be more hungry. And guess leptin's also related to carbohydrate intake. And my carbs are really high, and it is related to energy intake as well. So that side of leptin's kind of fixed, but I think the side of just being below my kind of set point isn't. And that's what's maybe driving me to be a bit more hungry and still a bit food focused.
do you feel that it's more of a struggle to stick to your diet now than prior to this? How do we call it actually? Because it's not a gaining phase, it's not a real diet break. What do we call it?
It's like maybe I'm like marinating. It's like we've got the product. Now we're
Yeah.
just going to marinate it, make it taste good, and then we're going to cook it later.
Oh
And that's
yeah.
the
Okay.
second half
So
of prep. So I'm marinating.
yeah, the marinating phase. Um, so do you, do you have more struggles sticking to your diet in the marinating phase than prior to the marinating phase?
um, I think no. To be frank, I don't. I am like, if anyone knows me, Pascal knows me. We're very similar, and we're both very disciplined. We're not. If we have like a diet we need to stick to, we're gonna stick to it. Like, yeah, we have that mentality. Like get shit done. It's gonna get done. So I don't think I do. And in actually fact, I think I find it. What I find myself doing is I've kind of got the mindset of I'm bulking. That means I should be able to be flexible. but sometimes that bites me in the backside. So I find myself like maybe having a snack and then later being like, why have I got like no macros left? Like I'm still really hungry, and then I'm like, oh, I have to have a massive salad because I've like fallen into this trap. So I think it's just, yeah, I don't think it is hard. It's definitely not harder because I do have more calories to play with. It's just
Okay.
I've kind of got that. I need to. I'm still holding on to my base cutting kind of diet, and then I'm kind of adding stuff on top of that rather than
Yeah.
kind of like. I think yeah, that's basically what I've done. But I think if this is it's kind of similar. It's like a mini reverse diet or a mini recovery diet in a sense. Not that I'm doing either of those exactly, because yeah, that's a lot of people talk about that being the hardest part because you haven't got a goal that you're pushing towards anymore. You're not looking in the mirror and getting leaner each day. You're actually losing. You're getting fluffier. So those elements, I'm definitely looking at myself less in the mirror, and kind of less kind of obsessed about how my physique's looking. But I'm still posing like I did my posing practice and things. But yeah, I don't think it's harder. It is easier, but not as easy as someone might imagine a gaining phase to be. Because I'm
Yeah.
on 3,000, like 100 to 200 calories at the moment. Like this is a really good intake.
No, the reason because I'm asking, and you pointed it out already, is that most people say that the hardest part is really after the contest prep, when they are trying to not gain too quickly or like have this YOLO mentality, like, okay, I'm gaining 30 pounds in about a week. And
I can't believe people do that. That still happens really
totally,
regularly.
totally. And I mean, on the other hand, we have the people who are reverse dieting, who are saying that this is actually the biggest struggle they are dealing with when they are increasing their calories slightly, and the body just signaling that it feels that more food is coming in, and it seems like as if it's then even screaming more to get out there and hunt or gather some food because, oh, I can see there is some food coming in now, and please continue like that. Yeah. And this is why I'm asking if you experience any kind of struggles because you are eating more now and your body is kind of signaling it in some kind of way to yeah, keep going or something, and make you even more hungrier on that extent.
So I don't think I definitely don't feel hungrier. And when I do feel hungry, it's not the same because when you're dieting and you feel hungry, you're also tired and low on energy. Whereas now I'm might be hungry, but I'm got good energy. So
Mm.
it can be solved quite easily through like having a diet drink or having some chewing gum because then that keeps my mouth busy and I've got the energy, so it's not a problem. So that element's good, and I also have past experience to draw upon. So I did a kind of reverse diet after my last contest prep, and that was, I wouldn't say it was a really strict reverse diet, but it wasn't as kind of open as the recovery diet. So the recovery diet is much more aggressive for people who don't know. You kind of really push yourself and actually push yourself into a surplus straight away and start gaining. Whereas a recovery reverse diet is much more gradual. You're kind of like building very small increments. So it was kind of a mixture of the two. But I stuck to that, and I didn't find it the hardest part. The hardest part was the hunger, but the energy levels, the like kind of libido, and that's something that's improved as well. Actually, I found my libido's improved. That all,
Bing.
yeah, kind of waking up with a some wood, and so that's all improved. So I'm seeing all of those benefits, and it's just holding out. And I think actually this has been spoken about by Lyle McDonald, and he kind of talks about how some elements of the kind of normalization of the body doesn't come about fully until you've gained all the fat, kind of got back into your settling point of like fat. So
Mm.
I don't think I'll feel fully like hunger wise. I don't think that'll fully go until I'm back, but everything else feels back. I think I'm fully functioning on most parts. It's just like, which is solved by being in a calorie maintenance or surplus as it is. But I think the actual hunger part won't be solved until I actually gain kind of all the fat back potentially.
And I mean, you're still on your track and on your strategy to step on stage. So you still have that goal in mind. It isn't like it's totally gone. Like for some people, after a show with a perhaps 3 year off season ahead, you still have the goal, and it's, as you pointed out, only a marinating phase, um, where you set yourself up for the next phase where you need to push then. And I think this will help tremendously to keep you on track and yeah, to stay disciplined and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. And it is part of it. Part of me was worried about that element of losing track of the end goal. But I think I'm in a good position, a lucky position where I am in this industry. I coach people going to stage. I have a lot of people to stay accountable to on social media. People know I'm competing, so it's not like I can't throw in the towel. I can't forget about it. So it's not, and like you said, it's not like a traditional bulk. It is just like a sprinkling of one, a marinade before my primer phase, and then cutting into the shows. So it's interesting. I think it'll be interesting to have a look at the posing video that I done today, see what kind of how full I'm looking and everything like that. My glutes still striated, if you want to know. That they're still there, which is nice.
They're always striated.
The areas I'm feeling fill back out, where not necessarily fat accretion, is where I was already holding a little bit, so I can feel it. Like now I can pinch on my lower back. I can feel like, yeah, this is where it kind of these are filling out again, these sort of areas, and that's where I know they're going to be like the stubborn areas that I'm going to have to lose.
By the way, sorry that I interrupt you here now. In regards to peaking then and how you react to carbs and in general your nutritional intake, did you do any experiments when leading into that? I would really call it now marinating phase. Into that marinating phase, did you experience or did you play around with your carb intake a little bit to see how your body reacts to higher carbs or a little bit more sodium and all that kind of stuff? Or was it simply like, okay, I'm transitioning now into it and I don't really think about it because I really need that break?
So yeah, I didn't mess around trying anything. I don't think even at this percentage body fat, I don't think I'd quite see what I'd want to see. I think I'd probably spill over pretty easily because I'm not that lean. Probably kind of photo shoot lean, and maybe I could kind of have a refeed day and see some good things happening. But yeah, I didn't mess around with anything. But it's good you introduced the sodium element, because I was having some trouble with, and I find I have trouble with edema and sodium and potassium and electrolytes around my area time deloading, and I end up holding on to edema then just when I make a change. But it seems now my body is settled and I'm actually in a good state. And this is something to talk about, in fact, because not to go on too much of a rant about it, because I don't know that much about kind of sodium, potassium pump and all of those aspects of it. But I do know when you decrease your carbohydrates and you go to quite a clean diet and then you drink quite a lot of water, you flush out lots and lots of sodium. And I think that's what I had been doing. And so my body had been trying to hold on to water to hold on to sodium, whereas now my carbs are up. I'm holding on to more water, I'm holding on to more sodium, and my electrolytes have like balanced off, so I'm not seeing that edema, which is nice, because I really don't, it doesn't feel nice having the edema. It makes me feel sluggish, it makes my calves look even smaller. They don't need that.
No, definitely not. But yeah, that's awesome to hear. We're coming up on time, Steve. I would like to know, for how long are you now staying in that phase, and what are the next weeks going to look like?
So the next few weeks are very much going to look like this week, probably. I expect to be, and like the rest of my mesocycles, incrementally increasing volume. But along with that, I'm going to have kind of, I guess, progressive overload within my training, progressive overload in my eating as well. So I'm going to be, and I don't necessarily recommend everyone does this or recommend it to everyone, but because I'm coming out of such a strict kind of cutting phase, because I am very much wanting to gain and make the most out of this period of time, and because I have very precise control over my nutrition and training, I'm actually going to increase my nutrition as well. Because I expect my metabolism to actually ramp up as I go through, and I'm ramping up my volume. So I want to keep on top of that. So I am increasing by 100 calories or so every single week. So it's also going to be So I'm in week 1, so I've got 3 more weeks. Then I'll be deloading, and I'll go back to maintenance calories, and then I'll go into a primer phase, which is going to be about a month long. But that will come. Further details about that will come then.
Cool.
Training wise, yeah, just as per usual, incrementally increasing volume and intensity by a little bit, adjusting via kind of how I'm feeling. I hopefully can see adjustments of like 2 to 3 sets per muscle group potentially this next week, because like I hopefully my adaptive ability would have been so enhanced. So yeah, really making sure to push myself.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward for how this maintenance, how this phase is going to be for you, what you get out of it, and what you experience and can take away from it, and also for the audience and listeners as well. For those who are maybe also trying to compete at some point and are already lean or on the leanish side of things, and then considering doing stuff like that as well. So it would be awesome to hear at the end of this phase how it actually went, if you got any benefits out of it, or all that kind of stuff.
And actually, I know we're going to finish really soon. I do just want to say as well, apart from the training and nutrition side, psychologically, during this time and socially, I want it to be a break as well. So I definitely want to make sure that I can go out. I'm meeting up with a friend, and we're going to go out and get some food, which we wouldn't have really been able to do so well in kind of when I'm cutting. Same with Charlotte, we can go out and enjoy more meals, we can eat together more. So I want it to be a psychological break as well, and not just the physiological kind of really like food focused and like training focused. I want there to be that break element as well, just to be clear, because I think that those are kind of discredited sometimes, but they really start creeping up on you, especially when you've been dieting for long periods of time.
Yeah, and I mean, the next weeks and the closer you get to the show, the harder it will get, and the more it will really require from you to be even more rigid and more disciplined, and avoid maybe even some social events. And yeah, definitely, I totally agree that you need to take care of that as well. And you can't really only be focused on yourself all the time, especially when you're doing a 6-month cut or 6-month contest prep. You really need to take that moments and breaks to actually, to live your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because at the end of your life, you don't want to look back at, let's say, your bodybuilding career, which then took 30 years, and the only thing you did was eating chicken, broccoli, and rice, and staying at home because you wanted to avoid everything. Because other than that, you couldn't have stuck to your diet and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important.
It applies to anything that requires a lot of social isolation. I think you need to break the mold sometimes, because you will. I think most people will regret that.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything else we wanted to say? Because we didn't want. I know we did a lot of promotion here already and a lot of plugs, but we wanted to remind you guys that on the 27th of May, Mike Israel is coming to London. We are hosting it there. He's talking about the scientific principles of hypertrophy, and we have only 15 tickets left to sell. So if you're interested, if you want to learn everything about how to get jacked and huge and all that kind of stuff, I would make sure to actually visit our website, revivestronger.com/Mike Israel conference, right?
Go to revivestronger.com and just scroll down a little bit, click on the image with Mike. That'll be the easiest way, because it's a bit of a complicated. We have a link below as well.
Totally. We put the link in the description below. Other than that, as Steve already said in the beginning, we would love if you leave a rating and a review here. It helps us spread the word, and the support helps us in general. So it would be highly appreciated on that behalf. And other than that, Steve, have you anything else you want to say?
Final plug from me is mini cuts. So we've got a mini cut movement running it starts the 15th of May, so that's in a couple of weeks. The
So summer
final,
shreds.
yeah, summer shreds effectively. So if you are interested in losing a substantial amount of fat in a short period of time for summer, this is perfect for you. We've already sold a couple of places, so that's really cool. But yeah, it's a good experience. You get your training, nutrition, all covered for you in a group training environment. It's just great because you're accountable on so many fronts. It's a fraction of the cost of normal one-to-one coaching. So if you wanted that from us, but you can't afford it, it's perfect for you. So yeah, just wanted to let you know that that's running. Again, I have a link in the description box below for that.
So now we're stopping with all the plugs.
Yeah, now we're stopping. We're saying thank you.
We're coming to the end, and we are so grateful for you guys listening and supporting not only that show but Revive Stronger in general. And yeah, have a good day and talk to you soon, buddy.
Yep, talk to you guys soon. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.